This is the final video for today. It's going to cover the database code. I've already covered the overview of Flask and forking. I've covered web pages and how those templates work. And now we're on to the actual Python code and some of the tricky bits to watch out for. Okay, so this is code. Most of this code you've already got written in your SQL REPL. So this one here is the code we wrote right at the beginning, connecting to the database. I've put a couple of some messages in strings, just to keep the user informed of what's going on. But it's basically the same code. This is the execute dropping the table animals, and this is the execute creating the table animals with animal ID, which is an integer primary key auto increment, scientific name, common name, diet, habitat, and vertebrate. You'll notice that I took away the integer part of vertebrate. It was taking a lot of code to make vertebrate display as true or false when it was entered as a 1 or a 0, and I just thought it was code that was unnecessary for you all to have to write. So I've turned this back into a string and we're actually entering the true or false in there. Generally speaking, database developers wouldn't do that because it takes a lot more memory to store the word false, F-A-L-S-E, than it does to store the number 0, and for a true Boolean to store the bit 0. So they generally wouldn't do it, but just to simplify things and make sure that people aren't writing a lot of confusing code, I've turned it back into a string. Okay, so this here, this means make message equal to what message already was, plus this BR, which means new line in HTML speak, and then table created successfully. Whoops. And then we close the connection. And so this bit here, you've done before. And we've just put it into a function called resetDB. And you learned a bit about functions with our turtle exercise. Turtle functions don't have a return value. So a function has a choice of having a function could have a return value or not. If you have to assign the thing that comes back from a function to a variable, then it has a return, and if you don't, then it doesn't have a return. So what I can say here is A equals hello, len A. If I type it and it has a value that comes back, so I could say num equals len A. That means that had a value that I had to capture. So now I can print num because num was returned from the function len. Now if I have a list, um, 4, 2, 3, 1, 5, and I want to sort that list, then if I say thing equals list.sort and then print thing has none in it because actually sort, this function here, doesn't return anything. It just does the thing in place. So all of your turtle functions, the turtle function forward doesn't do anything, doesn't return anything. It just does the thing. It just pushes the turtle on the screen and updates that display. It doesn't return anything to you, the programmer. So here we are returning to the Flask app to tell it what to do next. So that's what all the returns are doing, is talking back to the app and saying do something next. So the next thing that we want it to do is to go to the reset HTML, which is the one that says, okay, I have a result from that reset, and you can now link back to the home page. Okay, that's probably the trickiest thing, that whole have a function now and then return the value, which is the thing that we want the Flask app to do next. Apart from decorators, which are tricky, and we're not going to go into them, we're just going to use them. Okay, so next function doesn't do anything, it just renders a page animal. The next function, add record, we've already gone through a little bit. Now this bit is something that is brand new. This is called a try except finally. So when you're not sure that something's going to be successful, when you want to give it a go because it's possible that there's some broken stuff going on, and that happens a lot when you take user input. You're not sure that the user is going to input data the way that you want them to. For example, if we want to take input enter a number, I might make that num. Num equals enter a number. Now, because it's a number, we want to convert that to an integer. Now it's going to ask me to enter a number. If I enter the number 4, we're going to be fine. If I enter the number f, because I've done a typo, then I get an error. So instead of an error, that's just a typo by the user, we want to be able to try doing a thing, and if it works, then keep going. And if it doesn't, roll back all of the steps we've just done and tell the user that something went wrong. So that's called a try except. So we're going to try and take all of the data from the table with that post. So we're going to try and take the data SN, the form value SN, the form value CN, the form value diet, the form value HAB, and the form value vert. And if we go back to animal, you can see SN, CN, diet, HAB, and vert. I probably should have named those better. And then print them out to make sure that I can read as the programmer. This is just a testing print. And then connect to the database, make a cursor, execute and insert. And try and insert all of those 5 values. Now, if at any point in this it doesn't work, it has an error, then it will jump out of the try and go to this except section, which will roll back everything that I tried to do. And if it's an error that's not actually inside the cursor, inside the database stuff, if it's an error up here, maybe I mistitled something here and called it had instead of have, then it won't actually manage that exception very well, and it goes straight to finally. But generally speaking, it will go, we'll try and do this. If it can't do that, it will roll back, close, and put a message that there was an error in the insert operation. And this last part works regardless of whether the try worked or the except worked. So this is what's going to happen at the end, which is to return the render template result. So we go to result and we have a look. This is the MSG, and then this is a link back home. Okay, and then this one is just almost exactly the same as our select Python that we've done before in REPL. The only difference is this thing here, which I explained in the HTML video briefly. This here allows us to refer to each item in the record by its field name. So it returns something that has a name rather than something that only has a number. So let me show you the list, and you can see here row scientific name, row common name, row diet, row habitat, row vertebrate. These are the things that we're referring to by name. Otherwise I would have to do row 0, row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4. So it's actually useful to have that, what they call a row factory. And then finally we do the fetch all on all of the rows that meet this select statement. And since there's no filter on the select statement, it's going to pull all of them. And then it's going to take all of that stuff and pass it on to the list.html page. And that's where we get our rows of our table from. And the last pieces of code are just to return the home page when they use the backslash or empty URL. And this here just does a quick check on whether it's a security check to see if this page is actually running it or if it's trying to be run by somewhere else. And that should be enough to cover all of the Python.